Minister Theresa May says she will quit as Conservative leader on June the 7th. Now, this will pave the way for a contest to decide a new Prime Minister.
In an emotional statement in Downing Street, she says she had done her best to honor the 2016 EU referendum result and that it would remain a matter of deep regret that she had been unable to deliver Brexit. Mrs. May said she will continue to serve as Prime Minister while the Conservative leadership contest takes place.
I feel as certain today as I did 3 years ago that in a democracy, if you give people a choice, you have a duty to implement what they decide. I have done my best to do that. I negotiated the terms of our exit and a new relationship with our closest neighbours that protects jobs, our security and our union. I have done everything I can to convince MPs to back that deal. Sadly, I have not been able to do so. I tried 3 times. I believe it was right to persevere, even when the odds against success seemed high. But it is now clear to me that it is in the best interests of the country for a new Prime Minister to lead that effort.
The Prime Minister has faced a backlash from her MPs against her latest Brexit plan, which included concessions aimed at attracting cross-party support. Mrs. May met Home Secretary Sajid Javid and Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt at Downing Street on Thursday, where they are understood to have expressed their concerns about the bill. In her statement on Friday, she said, in order to deliver Brexit, a successor would have to build a consensus in Parliament, but she added that such a consensus can only be reached if those on all sides of the debate are willing to compromise.
African affairs analyst Kayode Ogundamisi now joins me to discuss the fate of Brexit and Britain's leadership as May steps down. Good to have you on the news.
Thank you.
Well, let's take it from the possibility of another referendum happening. Will that be the end of Brexit if that referendum happens?
It's difficult to say. The country is divided. It's not clear what the British public will be thinking right now that the politicians have failed them. There's a huge support for Brexit in the north of the country and the Midlands. But from London and most of the southern part of the country, the southeast of the country, people want Remain. So it's not clear if even the so-called second referendum is going to stop Brexit. Brexit is going to happen, definitely. The real question is it going to be Brexit with no deal or Brexit with compromise?
That's the real question. But speaking about failure, the EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker actually used the word fail, that the EU failed by not stepping in early enough in the whole Brexit process. Do you agree with that stance?
I think if the EU stepped in, it would have probably played into the hands of the right-wing elements within the Conservative Party and a lot of Brexiteers who would say, you see, this is what we've been talking about. This is the EU again interfering in Britain's internal affairs, British decision as to whether it wanted to leave the EU or stay in the EU. A lot of the complaint has always been the overbearing powers of the EU by a lot of quite a number of conservative supporters and people who want Britain out of the EU. I mean, the campaign was fraught with a lot of propaganda, lies, and people just felt as soon as they leave the EU, the borders are going to close, immigrants will no longer come, as they say they want to claim back their sovereignty from the EU. So I think the EU coming in to interfere or coming in to give directions would not have helped anything. Remember when Barack Obama, during the Brexit campaign, the election, it actually provoked a lot of people to vote against Remain as soon as Barack Obama started saying things like Britain should not leave the EU.
And Juncker, still talking about him, doesn't think another prime minister will actually do any better than Theresa May did. She tried 3 times and failed. What are the guarantees that a new PM, when whoever comes in, whether it's a Boris Johnson or whoever, can actually get Brexit through?
It's absolutely Right. What has happened during this whole process is that the politicians have not been honest with a lot of people in the UK. They think no one wants to say the bitter truth that it's a lose-lose situation. As soon as Britain leaves the EU, the major trading partners, things are going to be tough. No one wants to be seen to be cajoling towards the EU. So Theresa May, the Prime Minister, for example, could have been clear from the onset that there is no way you're going to get a hard Brexit. It's going to damage the British economy. Uh, During the first 2 years of this process, she's been insisting on it's either Brexit or nothing, no turning back. The issue of the backstop, she was sort of never going to mention that. She was never going to entertain the issue of a second referendum or putting the vote, the decision, the final resolution to the people. It was towards the end that she started talking about compromise, about meeting with the opposition. She met with Jeremy Corbyn and his team, but it's just a little bit too late. Whoever becomes prime minister is going to be in the same sort of nightmare that Theresa May found herself. It's a difficult one for the UK.
Let's bring it home to Africa, specifically Nigeria. Recall Theresa May was in Nigeria last August, and there was a memorandum of understanding signed, a deal as far as defense, security, and of course the economy is concerned. If another referendum does occur or happen, how is that going to affect these agreements?
Even before remember the defense minister, the British defense minister signed, did say that there was going to be some security cooperations with Nigeria. 2 days after he made that statement, he was sacked. He resigned because of a controversy based on, he was accused of leaking information in security meetings within the UK. But I think in the long term, whoever is the Prime Minister of Great Britain would take the issue of security in sub-Saharan Africa, particularly in Nigeria with the issue of Boko Haram, very, very seriously. I don't think that is going to have a negative impact. It might delay the process. Right now, the UK is in a sort of state of emergency, if I could use that word. Is Britain trying to sort itself out, define its relationship with the EU and its relationship with the rest of the world? So it's not going to have it will have a short-term impact on agreements that has been signed, but I don't think it's in the interest of the United Kingdom to put a stop to cooperations with African countries, particularly Nigeria.
Right. Thank you very much, Kayode Ogundamisi, African Affairs Analyst.